Before I go on my rampage, I want to make things very clear. If you like AEW, that is totally fine. Okay? I have no ill will against people that actually generally like it. Okay? Alright? I do like their hardcore wrestling. I do think that their tag team wrestling is miles better than anything that WWE are currently doing now. I do think that they're trying to do things different. And I do accept that some people that might generally like all of the show, more power to yous. Okay? This isn't a personal attack at AEW fans. So before I get completely bombarded by AEW fans and bombarded with responses and bombarded with everything, please do yourselves a favor and please don't. I am in no fucking mood to respond to any of this fucking shit. Okay? I've made like 3 videos over the past month and I haven't uploaded it. Out of where I want to get my facts straight. Because I do not want to look like a biased fanboy that just bashes one product, okay? And I don't want to present that. That's not what my channel is. It's not where I'm going to bash everything. So, I'm going to give you a list of some of the things that I personally hate about AEW, okay? The first thing is the fans, okay? Now, that might be contradictory. I'm talking about these crazy fans that think everything's amazing. I'm talking from top to bottom. Now, AEW fans, if you're an AEW fan and you have like 1 or 2 things that you have an issues with, that's totally fine. Where you go beyond, however, is where you start attacking people on Twitter because they don't like the show. That's where you go beyond, okay? If you're this obsessive fan that thinks that you're going to stick it to the man in WWE, you're no different than whenever these hardcore TNA fans were about. Thank God the hardcore TNA fans have left, you know, because they were completely in the wrong. But they've been replaced by these kind of weird, warped out AEW fans that seems to think that AEW can do no wrong, okay? So here's my reasons why AEW is terrible. Number 1, Cody Rhodes' horrible promos. Cody Rhodes currently today is, in my opinion, the worst guy that does promos ever. I think his promos are by far the worst that I've ever seen. That also includes WWE. I know that might seem like I'm a WWE fanboy, but it's true. Cody Rhodes' promos really are a self-jerking session. All it really is Cody Rhodes saying, I'm amazing, I got this deal, I did this, I did that, and then he does these fake little, like what Mick Foley did recently in WWE, where he goes, I'm the best, guys, and I do what I do because it matters, and then you have a bunch of people like going, oh my god, inspiring. No, it's not, okay? I'm sorry, but I do not want to see a wrestler half crying because he managed to get a wrestling organized order. And by the way, if we're going to talk sake for sake, all he did, and the Young Bucks did, and Kenny Omega did, was grab Tony Khan's fucking nipples and just milk it. Milk that money. That's what he did. He went up to a billionaire. Fair enough, he got an investor for it. But in reality, if you look at the grand scheme of things, you know, he hasn't done anything really different than what Triple H has done. And I'm not talking about the actual show, I'm talking about his character. His character, verbatim, is getting on like Triple H. If you look at Triple H and you look at Cody Rhodes, they're getting on exactly the same. I thought Cody Rhodes was all about originality and changing the game and changing everything. This guy, before this AEW thing, was actually sticking up for WWE at one point. He refused to bash it. Then once he got this deal, he started bashing it. Second of all, I'm sick of Cody Rhodes constantly talking about WWE, so how can you act like a political mastermind by dodging questions about WWE, then once you get your deal, you start bashing WWE? Okay, I get it, that's your rival, I completely understand, but maybe if you actually focused more on individual storylines and some wrestlers that are actually in AEW that are actually genuinely talented, because believe it or not, unlike Kenny Omega, unlike the Young Bucks, unlike Cody Rhodes and the rest of the Elite, there is actually genuine talent in AEW and they are not being shown. And do you know what that is a mirror of, ladies and gentlemen? It is a mirror of NWO with WCW. Okay? And who does that remind you of? That's right, if it was... listen, I could be wrong, but wasn't those guys that are trying to get noticed in AEW in the same position as Chris Jericho? it's kind of ironic that Chris Jericho constantly talks about how bad WCW is when he is doing the totally same thing. And by the way, I want to say this. The first few days, the first few weeks, I thought Y2J was funny. But just like a washed out Amy Schumer fucking comedy skit, he is recycling the same jokes. I swear to God, if I hear Le Champion, I am going to generally gorge my eyes out. If I hear a little bit of the bubbly, which by the way, they are selling for like 50 fucking bucks, for cheap ass goddamn champagne, which you could probably get in a grocery store that's probably half the price, even way less than that. And all it is like fucking a little bit of the bubbly. Okay, it was funny at the start, okay? But it's kind of ironic that Cody Rhodes and Kenny Omega and the rest of the two Young Bucks, which by the way, I'll get to them in a minute because they haven't been, I mean, they've had good matches, but I'll get into them in a minute actually. I want to keep focusing on Chris Jericho for a second. I understand that Chris Jericho is talented, there's no denying it, but when you're recycling jokes and you're constantly doing your one gimmick that you did in WWE whenever you just came out of there and you're constantly recycling, maybe it should tell you why WWE was restricting you, because here's the newsflash, you're fucking boring, Chris. I'm sorry, I can't believe I'm saying this, but it's boring. It's not funny, it's so goddamn boring. You can only say Le Champion so many times where it becomes repetitive. Like, this guy is legit turning into Nickelback. Chris Jericho is becoming the Nickelback of wrestling. Nickelback, whenever they started, people liked them. Then whenever they started going to Spotlight, and all of a sudden they're just there, and then people are like, oh shit, they're actually not as good as what I thought. Now, I'm not saying Chris Jericho's terrible. He's a fantastic wrestler in the ring. I do think once he has some organization, has some direction, he can be fantastic. But whenever he has the complete reins, he seems to doesn't know what he's doing. He thinks he's someone from Clockwork Orange. He thinks that he's the guy with the list. He's then shouting Le Champion, which is not funny. It's not funny at all. Why are people cheering for this? It is not funny. Your promos are awful. It is repetitive. Back to Cody Rhodes, I swear to God, this guy walks in with Brandy, whatever her name is. That's my wife, you know. Oh, did you know that's my wife? My wife. Who does that remind you of? That's right, Triple H. You did the same thing. Even your hair's the same as Triple H's. You dyed your hair so you can look like Triple H. You've become a scrawny version of Triple H because, you know, you've got these kind of weird power dynamics. And you're acting just like him. Now, there's no denying his match with Goldust was amazing. I'm not gonna lie that. I do think some of his matches are good. But his promos about the like, I'm fucking class, I'm fucking amazing. I understand that's what wrestling is, but can you please go beyond talking about yourself and actually talking about what's going on in regards to your story, rather than constantly putting yourself over? Because what it looks to me is that Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks, Cody Rhodes, and the rest of these guys only got Tony Khan in here so they can up their stock, up their ante, and they're not even pushing any other guys that are currently on the roster. In fact, they find one of the guys, I forget his name, it was Havoc something or whatever. He was amazing during these hardcore matches where he would do staple guns and all these, and then they find him. They find this man for doing hardcore wrestling, yet Cody Rhodes has a match with Goldust, blood pissed everywhere, and doesn't get fined. How can you find an actual hardcore guy that actually is good? Okay, a guy that is legitimately good, and then you fine him, yet you have a bloodbath. What do you have, Cody? It's ridiculous. Other point. Let's get into the Young Bucks, okay? I swear to God, if I hear someone say that they are the greatest tag team of all time, I am going to legit rip my nose off. I am not even joking. I'm gonna legit rip my eyeballs and skin off. Because the Young Bucks, I'm sorry, are not even in the top 10 of the best tag team divisions, okay? They are nowhere near the same level as the Hardys. They are nowhere near the same level as the Dudleys. They are nowhere near the Rock and Roll Express. They are nowhere near the Demolition. They are just not on that level. I'm sorry. It doesn't matter because, oh, we're the tag teams. And they're always in the main tag team slot. Have you ever, the whole point of you guys actually being in this roster is to push the tag team division. I don't constantly want to see the Young Bucks versus the people that are just happen to be there. I'm sick of it. Can we have legit tag teams? Okay? The Jungle Boy, he's stuck with this dinosaur guy. Like, and I get it. I understand it. You know, some people think it's cool. Oh, my God, it's amazing. But yet, these are the same people that bash the bunny in WWE. You people are hypocrites. You're absolute goddamn hypocrites. What else do we have here? The milking of Tony Khan. Okay? Kenny Omega. Dean Ambrose. This is a perfect example. Dean Ambrose. A guy who I was genuinely excited about. This is a man with no restrictions, no nothing. Now, I'm not denying that his match with Kenny Omega was fucking amazing. It was, believe it or not. I loved it. However, Dean Ambrose's character, and I'm just going to call him Dean Ambrose because that's what he is. I thought the whole difference between Jon Moxley and Dean Ambrose is that Dean Ambrose is the PG version of Jon Moxley. But the problem is, though, is that unless like a few swear words and act enough, all he does is exactly the same thing as what Dean Ambrose does. Does this. Just does that. That's his character. Tony Khan. Like, what is that? That's what we do. You don't want that. Act like Jon Moxley back in the day. Don't do this whole... Like, what is that? It's ridiculous. The Y2J promos, as I said, are just absolutely god-awful. They are the worst thing going right now. I can't believe they went from Chris Jericho being legendary to Chris Jericho looking like Adam Sandler. And if he continues this, he's going to be the Adam Sandler of wrestling. Chris Jericho legitimately might hurt his legacy. I'm not going to say it's going to completely hurt his legacy, but he is completely hurting his legacy by getting on like this. Doing the list. You're just recycling. Also, the thing that he had with that guy, what you call him, the actual good guy, the heel guy, the fucking whatever the fuck his name is. It's just so forgettable. Some of these stars are fucking forgettable. But the guy that's legitimately good, he had like a thing with him in the ring, okay? And I watched the whole effing show, and they actually played the Kevin Owens and Chris Jericho feud with what essentially your man fucking Y2J and this other guy, and they played it back to back. And if you look at the whole story, it is exactly the same. They have ripped off the story. This is no joke. They ripped off the story of the Kevin Owens body thing. Okay? I thought AEW was all about originality. I think when it debuted was amazing. But what happened is that they threw so much in for the first few weeks, they burnt themselves out, so they're just making the same jokes over and over again. And this is genuine criticism. This isn't me trying to hurt AEW, okay? This is different. This isn't like me and TNA, where like legit that absolute but by the way, TNA is still garbage. Go fuck yourselves if you still think that that product is any good. I seen that guy, the former the World Heavyweight Champion guy, and he was sitting there with a bunch of goddamn Backstreet Boys with his beer, and he's like, "We don't need bubbly, we're real men." We're like, it's just cringy. I've seen EVED promos legitimately better than this. I legit hope that people stop watching Impact. It's not fun. It's not good. I watched actually a little bit of it because I heard so many good things. It's terrible. They're now making like the woman now, which by the way, there's nothing wrong with that. About a woman going for the World Heavyweight Championship. I have no issues with that if the story dictates itself. But when you're trying to force it down people's throats, when you're forcing the story because it's the only good thing going for Impact, that's where it becomes a problem. And in reality, that's why wrestling is dying, because it's the same old recycled horse shit. At the end of the day, fuck wrestling, I'm done with it, okay? That's the end of the rant. So, take this video as what you will. I'm done. I'm just generally done. I'm just fucking, this news has just been thrown at me. I'm sick of these YWC fans now, that they're either arguing or fighting amongst each other. It's just stupid. The whole thing is just stupid. You're all acting like morons. Everyone's acting like an idiot. At the end of the day, I've just let it out, okay? And by no means am I saying that WWE's great. It's not. It's fucking awful as well. See the so-called wrestling boom? There is no wrestling boom. You all legit need your heads examined, because legit, some of you don't know anything about wrestling. And that's why I took a step back for all these months, because I wanted to hear what you all had to say. But at the end of the day, you're all a bunch of goddamn sheep. You're gonna follow each other as much as anyone else, and that's why this product is gonna suck. Because you suck, your viewership sucks, and your whole fucking family sucks, so fuck you. General Jerry signing out. Merry Christmas, you bellends.